The elderly couple collapsed on the clubhouse porch, frozen, exhausted, dying. They'd walked 3 days through Montana winter, lost everything in a fire, no family, no home, no hope. The old man knocked weakly. When the door opened, revealing a massive biker covered in tattoos, he whispered words that would change everything. "Please, sir, we can't walk anymore. Can we stay just one night, just until dawn? We don't want to die in the cold tonight." The biker stared at 2 people old enough to be his parents, literally freezing to death, asking for one night of mercy. He made one call. By morning, 89 motorcycles surrounded the clubhouse, and the elderly couple's one night became forever. If this story touches your heart, please like and share. Compassion has no age limit. Harold and Martha Jennings had been married for 54 years. He was 78, she was 76. They'd built a life together, raised a son, survived hardships, grown old together. Their son Jason died in Afghanistan 15 years ago, 28 years old, Marine, KIA. Harold and Martha never recovered. They withdrew from the world, lived isolated in a small mobile home in rural Montana, just the 2 of them, surviving on combined Social Security, $1,620 monthly, barely enough. They couldn't afford insurance. The $340 monthly premium was too much, so when the fire came, December 18th, 2024, faulty space heater, they lost everything. The mobile home burned completely. Everything gone, clothes, photos, memories, Jason's medals. They stood in the snow, watching their life burn, too shocked to cry. "What do we do?" Martha asked. "We walked to town. Find the homeless shelter, it's 23 miles. We can make it." They started walking. No winter coats, burned in the fire. Just the clothes they wore, light jackets, inadequate shoes. Montana winter is brutal. Temperatures hit -15. Wind cut like knives. Snow covered everything. Harold had severe arthritis, knees, hips. Walking was agony, plus diabetes, untreated because they couldn't afford medication. His body was failing. Martha had advanced osteoporosis, brittle bones, constant pain, plus frostbite starting on her toes. She could barely support her weight. But they walked, because stopping meant dying. Day 1, they covered 6 miles, slept in an abandoned barn. No heat, no food, just exhaustion. Day 2, 4 more miles. Harold's knees were swollen. Martha's toes were blackening, both showing signs of hypothermia. Day 3, they managed 3 more miles, 13 total, still 10 miles from shelter, but Harold couldn't continue. "I can't walk anymore," he gasped, collapsed in the snow. "My legs won't work." Martha tried helping him up, but she was too weak, too cold, too broken. They sat together in the snow on a dark rural road, knowing they were dying. "I'm sorry," Harold whispered. "I failed you. Should have saved money, had insurance, done better. You did your best. We both did. We had a good life. Raised a good son. That's enough. I don't want you to die in the cold. We're together. That's all that matters." At 10:30 p.m., they saw lights. A property, half a mile off the road. Dozens of motorcycles parked outside. A clubhouse. "Bikers," Harold said. "Might be dangerous. We're dying anyway. What's the harm in asking?" They used their last strength, crawled toward the lights, took 30 minutes to cover half a mile. The sign read, "Devil's Riders MC, private property." Harold knocked, barely audible. Martha collapsed beside him. The door opened. A massive man, 6'4", 290, covered in tattoos, leather vest with patches. "Reaper, President." He looked down, saw 2 elderly people, frozen, dying. "Please, sir," Harold whispered through chattering teeth. "We can't walk anymore. Can we stay just one night, just until dawn? We promise not to bother you. We'll leave in the morning. We just don't want to die in the cold tonight." Reaper's heart stopped. These people were literally freezing to death on his porch. "Get inside, now!" He turned, shouting, "Medical emergency! 2 civilians freezing at the door. I need blankets, heaters, hot drinks, first aid, move!" 20 Devil's Riders mobilized instantly, grabbed supplies, prepared space. Reaper and two brothers carried Harold and Martha inside. Gently, carefully. Strip the wet clothes. Wrap them in thermal blankets. Position heaters around them. Prepare hot liquids. Not too hot. Gradual warming. Check vitals. Watch for signs of severe hypothermia. The bikers moved with military precision. These weren't criminals. They were organized, trained, efficient. Within minutes, Harold and Martha were wrapped in blankets, surrounded by portable heaters, drinking warm broth. Temperature? Reaper asked. Harold's at 94, dangerously low. Martha's at 95, both hypothermic. Martha's got frostbite on 2 toes. Harold's showing signs of shock. Keep warming them gradually. Monitor constantly. If temperatures don't rise in 30 minutes, we're calling ambulance. Reaper knelt beside the couple. I'm Reaper, president of the Devil's Riders. You're safe now. We're not letting you die. What are your names? Harold. This is Martha. We're sorry for intruding. Stop, you're not intruding. You asked for help. We're providing it. What happened? Harold explained. The fire. Walking 3 days, trying to reach shelter. Bodies failing. Reaper felt rage, not at them, at the system that let elderly people nearly die seeking basic shelter. You're staying here, not just tonight, until we figure out permanent solution, understand? We can't impose. You're not imposing. You're accepting help. There's a difference. Now rest. We're watching you all night. You're safe. Reaper stayed with Harold and Martha all night, monitoring, ensuring they survived. Other members rotated through, bringing food, adjusting heaters, checking temperatures. By 3 a.m., both were stable. Temperatures normalized, color returning, consciousness clear. Why are you helping us? Martha asked. You don't know us. You needed help. We provide it. Simple as that. Plus, Reaper's voice softened. You remind me of my parents, both dead now. If they'd been in trouble, I'd want someone to help them. I'm doing for you what I'd want done for them. At dawn, Reaper made calls to every Devil's Riders member in Montana, 89 total. Brothers, we have 2 elderly people who lost everything. They walked 3 days through winter trying to reach shelter. Nearly died on our doorstep asking for one night's help. This is code of honor. We're responding properly. I need everyone here by noon. We're fixing this permanently. By 11 a.m., 89 motorcycles filled the property, every member present. Reaper addressed them. Harold and Martha Jennings, married 54 years, lost their son in Afghanistan, lost their home to fire, lost everything. They walked 3 days in winter, nearly died, asked us for one night's shelter. We're giving them a lifetime. Questions? What do they need? Axel asked. Everything: home, transportation, food, clothes, medical care, financial security. We're providing all of it. Cost? Doesn't matter. We have club funds. We have personal donations. We have connections. This is happening. Who's in? Every hand raised, unanimously. The mobilization began. Members with construction skills located a refurbished 3-bedroom mobile home. $47,000. Club paid it, had it delivered and installed on club property that afternoon. Connected utilities, furnished completely. A member who owned a dealership donated a 2020 Ford F-150, $38,000 value. Modified for elderly mobility. Step bars, grab handles, cushioned seats. Others filled the home with supplies, food for 6 months, clothes, medical supplies, everything needed. The club accountant set up emergency fund, $25,000 for medical expenses, emergencies. Whatever Harold and Martha needed, legal paperwork was prepared. Harold and Martha Jennings, honorary lifetime members, Devil's Riders MC, under permanent protection. By 3 p.m., everything was ready. Reaper approached Harold and Martha, rested now, warm, fed, still confused about what was happening. Can you walk? There's something you need to see. They walked outside, slowly, carefully, and stopped. 89 motorcycles lined the property, 89 Devil's Riders standing at attention, and a beautiful mobile home, new, furnished, ready. What's this? Harold whispered. Your home. You asked for one night's shelter. We're giving you permanent residence. This is yours, for life, rent-free, utilities paid, maintained by the club. Your family now." Martha started crying. "We can't accept. You can and will. You're honorary members, under our protection, forever. This," Reaper gestured at the home, "is yours. This," he pointed at the F-150, "is your truck, registered in your name. This," he handed Harold an envelope, "was $25,000. Emergency fund, medical care, whatever you need, and this," he showed them documents, "makes you official members, protected, supported, family." Harold collapsed, not from cold, from overwhelming emotion. "Why? We're nobody. We're just you're human beings who needed help. That's enough. You asked for one night. We're giving you the rest of your lives. Safe, secure, protected. That's what family does." 89 bikers stepped forward, each shaking Harold's hand, hugging Martha, welcoming them. "You're our family now," they said. "You're protected, forever. Nobody hurts you. Nobody neglects you. We're here, always." Harold and Martha moved into their new home that evening. It was beautiful, warm, safe, everything they needed. "I can't believe this is real," Martha said. "Yesterday we were dying in the snow. Today we have a home, family, everything." "The Devil's Riders are angels," Harold said. "Real angels. They saved us." Word spread quickly. "Biker gang saves elderly couple from freezing." Media covered it. The story went viral. Reporters came to the clubhouse. "Why did you do this?" "Because they needed help," Reaper said simply. "They knocked on our door, dying, asked for one night. We gave them a lifetime. That's what decent humans do." "But the cost, over $100,000. Irrelevant. You can't put a price on human life. Harold and Martha are family now. You take care of family, no matter the cost." The public response was overwhelming. Donations poured in. People inspired by the Devil's Riders' compassion wanted to help. "Give it to other elderly in need," Reaper instructed. "Harold and Martha have enough. Others don't." The Devil's Riders established Harold and Martha's Haven, fund helping homeless elderly, housing, medical care, support. "We saw how easy it is for elderly people to slip through cracks," members explained. "How they can lose everything and have nowhere to turn. We're ensuring that doesn't happen. We're watching, protecting, acting." At 6 months, Harold and Martha were thriving, healthy, happy, surrounded by family, 89 bikers who checked on them constantly. "How are you doing?" Reaper asked during weekly visits. "Better than ever," Harold said. "We have home, family, purpose. You gave us everything. You gave us purpose too, reminded us what really matters. Protecting vulnerable people, being decent humans. You're teaching us as much as we're helping you." At 1 year, the Devil's Riders held a celebration. 1 year since Harold and Martha joined the family. 500 people attended, bikers, community members, elderly people helped by Harold and Martha's Haven. Harold addressed the crowd. "1 year ago, Martha and I were dying. We'd lost everything. We knocked on the Devil's Riders' door asking for one night's mercy. They gave us a lifetime of love. They proved that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're dying, who says yes when you ask for help. Thank you, all of you, for saving us, for loving us, for being our family." 500 people stood, applauding, many crying, understanding they'd witnessed something extraordinary. At 5 years, Harold was 83, Martha was 81, both healthy, both happy, both actively involved in the Haven, helping other elderly find safety. "We know what it's like to be desperate," Martha told people they helped, "to have nothing, to face death. The Devil's Riders saved us. Now we're helping save others, passing forward the gift we received." At 10 years, Harold and Martha were 88 and 86, still living in the home the Devil's Riders provided. Still surrounded by family, now second generation of members who'd taken over from Reaper and his brothers. "The club has changed leadership," current members explained, "but our commitment to Harold and Martha never changes. They're family, forever. That's non-negotiable." At 15 years, Martha passed, 91 years old. Peaceful death at home, surrounded by Harold and 50 Devil's Riders. Her last words, "Thank you for giving us 15 more years, for loving us when we had nobody, for being the family we needed. Harold, I love you. Keep living, keep helping others. That's how we honor what they gave us." Her funeral drew 3,000 people, Devil's Riders from across the region, elderly people helped by the Haven, community members, everyone whose lives Harold and Martha touched. Harold gave the eulogy. "Martha and I knocked on the Devil's Riders' door 15 years ago, dying, desperate. They could have turned us away. Instead, they gave us everything. 15 years of safety, love, family. Martha lived those years happy, secure, surrounded by people who cared. That's all anyone can ask. Thank you to the Devil's Riders for giving us the greatest gift, time together, safe and loved." 3,000 people stood, honoring Martha, honoring the bikers who'd saved her. Sometimes angels wear leather. Sometimes family comes from unexpected places. Sometimes one night becomes forever. Harold and Martha proved it. The Devil's Riders lived it, and thousands benefited from the lesson. If this story touches your heart, please like and share. Compassion has no age limit. At 20 years after the rescue, Harold was 98. Still living in the home the Devil's Riders provided, still surrounded by family, now third generation of members carrying the torch. "How are you, Harold?" current President Snake asked during weekly visits. "Grateful. Every day. I lived 20 more years because you all said yes. Martha got 15 extra years, happy years, safe years. That's everything." Harold and Martha's Haven had grown exponentially. 20 years of operation. Over 8,000 elderly people helped. Housing, medical care, support. $200 million distributed. "We're successful because we remember our foundation," the director explained. 2 desperate people knocked on a door asking for one night, got a lifetime. That simplicity guides everything. We help elderly find safety. That's our mission. The story of Harold and Martha had become legend, taught in social work programs, referenced in discussions about community compassion, featured in documentaries. The Devil's Riders' response represents ideal community intervention, researchers concluded. They saw need, acted immediately, provided comprehensive, permanent support, didn't just solve the immediate crisis. They transformed 2 lives completely. That's the model all communities should follow. At 22 years, Harold passed away, 100 years old. Peaceful death at home, surrounded by 75 Devil's Riders, maintaining vigil. His last words, "Thank you, to Reaper, to every member who helped us. You gave Martha and me 22 years we wouldn't have had, 22 years of safety, love, family. We came to your door dying. You gave us life. I'm grateful forever. Keep helping others, please. Every elderly person deserves what you gave us." His funeral drew 10,000 people, Devil's Riders from across North America, elderly people helped by the Haven, community members, officials, ordinary people whose lives Harold and Martha touched. Snake gave the eulogy. "Harold Jennings knocked on our door 22 years ago, dying, desperate. He asked for one night. We gave him 22 years. He and Martha showed us what compassion looks like, what vulnerability requires, what family means. They taught us that age doesn't diminish worth, that elderly people deserve protection and love. That saying yes to desperate requests creates miracles. Thank you, Harold, for trusting us, for teaching us, for being our family. Rest with Martha. You've earned your peace." 10,000 people stood, saluting, honoring a man who'd transformed desperation into purpose. Harold was buried beside Martha, reunited after 7 years apart. The headstone, Harold and Martha Jennings. They asked for one night and got forever. They showed the world what compassion looks like. The Devil's Riders established Harold and Martha Day, annual event where members help elderly people with home repairs, yard work, groceries, whatever needed. "We're doing what our founders did for Harold and Martha," members explained. "Seeing elderly need, acting immediately, providing support. That's our mission, forever. At 30 years after the original rescue, the Haven had helped over 20,000 elderly people, $500 million distributed, countless lives saved. Harold and Martha's one night became a movement, historians noted. Their desperate request inspired decades of helping vulnerable elderly. That's exponential impact from one act of compassion. At 50 years, the 50th anniversary of the rescue was regional event. 5,000 people gathered at the Devil's Riders Clubhouse, now surrounded by park, honoring Harold and Martha. 50 years ago, two elderly people nearly died asking for shelter. The current president told the crowd. The Devil's Riders said yes. That yes created everything you see today. Thousands of elderly helped. Hundreds of millions distributed, countless lives saved, all because our founders chose compassion over indifference. That's our legacy. That's what we honor today. The mobile home Harold and Martha lived in was preserved. Museum. Visitors walked through, saw where two desperate people found safety, where compassion changed lives. This is sacred ground, tour guides explained. Here, desperation met compassion. Here, one night became forever. Here, two people proved that vulnerability deserves response. Stand here, feel the weight of that truth, then go live accordingly. At 75 years, the Haven had helped over 60,000 elderly people. $2 billion distributed, operating in 35 states. The Harold and Martha model, it was called, immediate, comprehensive, permanent support for vulnerable elderly, replicated across the country. We're not just helping people survive, program directors explained. We're ensuring they thrive, that they have dignity, safety, love. That's what Harold and Martha received. That's what we provide. At 100 years, the centennial celebration was massive. 20,000 people gathered, Devil's Riders from 100 chapters, elderly people helped by the Haven, advocates, officials. The great-great-grandniece of Harold and Martha, Jennifer, 52, spoke. I never met my great-great-aunt and uncle. They died before I was born, but I know their story, how they nearly died asking for help, how the Devil's Riders said yes, how that yes created a century of compassion. I'm proud to carry their name, proud of what their vulnerability inspired. Thank you to the Devil's Riders for honoring my family by helping thousands more. 20,000 people stood, honoring Harold and Martha, honoring the bikers who'd saved them, honoring a century of compassion. At 125 years after the rescue, Harold and Martha's story remained foundational text in elder care and community compassion studies. Universities taught courses on the Harold and Martha effect, how one act of compassion created exponential positive impact across generations. They knocked on a door dying, professors explained. The Devil's Riders didn't just save them. They transformed their final years into purpose, gave them safety, dignity, love. That response inspired over a century of helping vulnerable elderly. That's transformative cultural impact from one compassionate yes. The Haven had helped over 200,000 elderly people across 125 years, $10 billion distributed, global recognition as model program. We're successful because we never forgot our roots, the current director said. Two desperate people, one compassionate response. That simplicity guides everything. No bureaucracy, no red tape, just immediate help for elderly in need. The Devil's Riders had transformed completely. Once feared outlaws, now respected elder advocates. Partner to governments, essential component of elderly care systems in 47 states. Harold and Martha changed us, members explained. Before them, we were bikers helping bikers. After them, we became protectors of vulnerable elderly. That's who we are, forever. At 150 years, the sesquicentennial was an international event. Representatives from 60 countries attended, each describing programs inspired by Harold and Martha's story. In Norway, we created Forever Homes, permanent housing for homeless elderly, funded by community donations. In Australia, one-night programs. immediate shelter and comprehensive support for elderly in crisis. In Canada, Martha's Houses, residential facilities where elderly receive care, dignity and family, all inspired by two people asking for one night's shelter. The Mobile Home Museum drew over 1 million visitors annually. People from across the world came to see where desperation met compassion. Seeing where it happened makes it real, visitors said. You feel the weight of their desperation, the power of the bikers' response. It changes you, makes you want to help vulnerable people in your own community. At 200 years, the bicentennial was the largest gathering in Montana history, 50,000 people, celebrating 2 centuries of compassion inspired by one desperate night. The President of the United States spoke. 200 years ago, Harold and Martha Jennings knocked on a door dying. They asked for one night. The Devil's Riders gave them 22 years. That exchange created a movement that's helped over 1 million elderly people, distributed over $50 billion, changed laws in 47 states, transformed how America treats vulnerable elderly. We honor Harold and Martha today. We honor the Devil's Riders who saved them, and we commit to continuing their legacy. Every elderly person deserves what they received: safety, dignity, love. That's our obligation as a society. 50,000 people stood, honoring 2 centuries of compassion, committing to continue the work. The Devil's Riders rode in formation, 5,000 motorcycles, representing every chapter that embraced Harold and Martha's legacy. We're not the original members, the current president said. We're 8th generation since Reaper, but we carry the same mission: protect vulnerable elderly, provide immediate comprehensive support, create family for those who have none. That's Harold and Martha's gift to us. We're living it forever. 250 years after Harold and Martha knocked on that door, their story remained culturally significant, the defining example of community compassion working. The Haven had helped over 5 million elderly people across 2.5 centuries, $100 billion distributed, operating in 147 countries. Standard model for elder care globally. The Harold and Martha model works, international organizations concluded. Immediate response, comprehensive support, permanent commitment, no bureaucracy, no delays, just compassion meeting need. That's what every elderly person in crisis deserves. The Devil's Riders had become global organization. 50,000 members across 6 continents, all dedicated to protecting vulnerable elderly. We're not criminals, members explained. We're family builders. We connect isolated elderly with supportive communities. We provide resources. We create safety. That's Harold and Martha's legacy through us. 300 years after the rescue, the story was taught in elementary schools. Children learned about vulnerability, about asking for help, about communities responding with compassion. Harold and Martha were brave, teachers told students. They asked for help when dying. That's courage. The Devil's Riders were compassionate. They said yes when they could have said no. That's heroism. Together, they showed us how to be human. The mobile home where Harold and Martha lived was now UNESCO World Heritage Site, protected internationally, symbol of compassion's power. This structure represents humanity's best impulses, the UNESCO director said. Here, 2 desperate people found safety. Here, one night became forever. Here, compassion created a movement lasting 3 centuries. This is sacred ground. We preserve it for all generations. At 500 years, half a millennium after that desperate knock, Harold and Martha's legacy was undeniable. Over 50 million elderly people directly helped. Trillions of dollars distributed, global culture transformed to value elderly dignity and community responsibility. The Harold and Martha principle was enshrined in international law. Every nation must provide immediate, comprehensive support for elderly in crisis. No exceptions, no delays. They knocked on a door dying 5 centuries ago, legal scholars explained. That knock echoed through history. changed how the world treats vulnerable elderly. That's transformative power from one desperate question and one compassionate answer. The Devil's Riders continued their mission, 20th generation since Reaper, still committed to Harold and Martha's values. "We'll never forget," members said. "Two people nearly died asking for shelter. Our founders said yes. That yes created 5 centuries of helping millions. We're honoring that forever." Harold and Martha's lesson endures. Vulnerability requires compassion. Desperate requests deserve yes. One night can become forever when communities choose love over indifference. The Devil's Riders lesson endures. Compassion means action, not just sympathy. Family means choosing to help those who need it. Legacy means living values that outlast generations. Together, they proved that one compassionate response creates infinite ripples. One desperate knock, one compassionate yes, one transformed world. Harold and Martha asked for one night, got 22 years, created 5 centuries of helping millions. That's the power of compassion meeting desperation. That's the miracle of saying yes. That's the legacy that never dies. Thank you, Harold and Martha, for having courage to ask, for showing us vulnerability's power, for trusting strangers with your lives. Thank you, Reaper and the Devil's Riders, for saying yes, for giving forever instead of one night, for showing us what compassion looks like. The lesson lives on. Every elderly person in crisis deserves response. Every desperate knock deserves open door. Every request for help deserves yes. That's humanity's obligation. That's Harold and Martha's legacy. That's the Devil's Riders' gift. Forever. One knock at a time, one yes at a time, one transformed life at a time. That's the truth. That's the power. That's the legacy. Never forget it. Never ignore desperate knocks. Never refuse vulnerable people. Because one night became forever. Because compassion created movement. Because 2 dying people and 1 biker club changed the world. 500 years later, still teaching us, still inspiring us, still showing us how to be human. Harold and Martha knocked, the Devil's Riders answered, millions benefited, forever. That's the power of compassion. That's the legacy of saying yes. That's the truth that never dies. Remember it, live it, pass it forward, always.